everyone, welcome back to today in Woburn's election series. We are meeting with our fifth candidate out of 10 today. We will have the opportunity to hear from school committee candidate James Fletcher. James, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being on here.
I'm going to hop right into the questions. We've gotten lots of feedback from voters asking different questions for candidates. So, what experiences from your personal and professional background do you feel best prepare you for running for school committee?
Well, first and foremost, I'm an educator, and I've taught and coached in Woburn for almost 10 years. Obviously, that was a significant part of my career. I'm also born and raised in Woburn, went through the Woburn Public Schools. So not only do I have experience with education, and I still do, I have experience being from Woburn, and I feel like that's a valuable thing as well. Not to say that somebody who is not from Woburn couldn't do the job adequately, but I do feel as if someone who's ingrained in the community, someone who knows about the community, what it was like growing up here, going to school here, will have an upper hand in being able to solve some of the problems that we see today with our school district. Continuing to teach now at McLean Hospital. I'm a special ed teacher over there, and I develop some clinical care for students over there. Has been another journey for me. It was hard for me to leave my teaching post in Woburn, but this opened up a new door for me, and also provided some valuable training for me to be able to even do this job in a better way. So I'm looking forward to applying some of those things. As a mental health counselor in training as well, I'm going to have a unique insight in looking at the whole child. So I can look at the blend of classroom and clinical insight that needs to come together in order to adequately educate the children of Woburn. So I think that's where I stand on that, and that's what's driven me to run.
Thank you. As a potential new school committee member, there's a lot to learn. Are there
Mhm.
areas where you feel like, oh, I'm going to really need to like pick up on that quickly? And how do you plan to get up to speed?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, the first thing I really need to do if I'm lucky enough to represent the citizens of Woburn on the school committee is to listen. I need to listen to the members that are elected alongside me on the school committee that are serving with me. I need to listen to the stakeholders who have been here before, educators that are employed by the district, and everybody else that's involved in the community aspect of our schools. Learning the details that I think I already sort of get a grasp on, making sure that my understanding of the budget process is what it really is, making sure that the policies and the procedures of the school committee are being adhered to by myself, making sure I'm not coming in there, guns a-blazing and, figuring out that I'm sort of doing the wrong thing. So really just building trust with the school committee members, following their lead, asking questions and not being afraid to do that. I think that's one of the biggest things is making sure that I'm not afraid to ask questions and being open to constructive criticism and feedback. I don't have all the answers. I may not even have any of them. And the best thing I can do is listen and learn from those who've done it before.
Thank you. Um, so, there's a lot of candidates running. There's a lot of new candidates running, and we've heard candidates mention improving communication, transparency. What's one specific idea you would put in place to make that a reality?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of candidates have talked about that, and that's sort of the buzzword that goes through this election cycle, and it's there's a whole bunch of things you can do. It's between holding regular office hours and listening sessions, whether it's pushing for more meetings with the WTA to get educator feedback, and whether it's just making sure that updates to families are provided in time, not only for them to make a decision, but also for them to have their voice heard if they have a particular feeling about a decision or a policy that's being made. One of the major things I think the school committee needs to improve on is their communication intragovernmentally. And I mean that with the city council and with the mayor. I understand that the school committee really has that grasp and that love of the school district, and they love being able to be the body that governs it. But that responsibility comes advocating for additional funding when necessary. And I feel it's going to be easier to get that additional funding if you're willing to have quarterly full in liaison meetings with the city council, where every member of the council and every member of the school committee sit down and meet and talk about what budget challenges they foresee and what might need to be added to the budget in order to benefit the students of Woburn. And then also just being clear about why we need money instead of saying, we need 7%, we want that increase. Let's just say, why do we need that? What are we going to do? What increases are we asking for? And how are they going to benefit the students of Woburn, not only now, but in the long term, so we don't find ourselves playing catch up later on. So I think that intergovernment communication that doesn't seem to exist so strongly right now can be improved. And I think when it does, the role of the school committee and the role of the city council will end up benefiting each other rather than seemingly to have that bounce off right now that they do.
So speaking of the budget, school budgets, the last couple of years have, there's been tax increases, there's been conversations about, the needs of the students versus the needs of the community. And so, if you have to shift funding to better serve students, how would you approach that decision?
I mean, there's different ways to look at it, I think. The major thing that you have to look at is what funding is available in the city, obviously, which how can we take some money? How can we increase funding into the city as well? I think that there should be school committee members who advocate for some developments and increase in development in the city council meetings, in under the guise that any amount of money that is added to the city of Woburn could potentially be added to the school district. A healthier city makes a healthier school district and vice versa. So I think that's a way that you can advocate for increased funding. Also exploring things, making sure that full state Chapter 70 reimbursements are taken care of, special ed reimbursements are taken care of. Doing the hard work, like pursuing grants, it's not easy, it's not fun to do, but there are plenty of grants out there that it would be irresponsible of us not to at least attempt to look at as a way to supplement some of the funding that we look to accomplish. We're going to set out goals as a school committee that would likely not be achievable under the current budget structure, and everyone knows that, and that's perfectly fine. But if we're trying to do our best to get as close as we can, we're going to have to look outside of the money available to us just through Woburn and look at other resources as well. And through that, I think we will have the support of the municipality when it comes time to actually asking for a little bit more money than we normally do because we've done our diligence trying to get it elsewhere.
And so you do your due diligence, you've gone through, and there's still, there's that funding gap. What's your decision making process as far as like what's best for the students, like how to better serve the students? Like, what does that process look like to you?
I mean, it's certainly examining what things are necessary and what things aren't. It's looking at, is that repair, is this a full rehab of a building, or is it certainly just a quick little repair? I think that we want to get away from what I would call a band-aid, at least as a common solution. Of course, there are going to be circumstances where band-aids need to be applied in order to fix a newer issue or an issue that sort of got swept under the rug or under the radar, rather. But being able to have someone who is able to take a look at what is best for the students, what is best for the learning environment of the students, what increases their educational opportunities versus what is just an extra, what is something that we can live without for a year or two, and making sure that the students aren't lacking in opportunity and lacking in resources. That's not an easy thing to do. Hence, that's why it hasn't been done. But that's something that the school committee needs to take a look at and also be open to communication from parents and other stakeholders about as well. When we make those decisions as a community rather than just as a board of 7 folks, it's a lot easier to stomach and it makes it seem a lot easier to remedy later on because, again, that due diligence was done, people were asked, input was sought, and decisions were made based on not just the feelings of 7 individuals, but the feelings of the municipality as a whole.
Thank you. So you're elected to school committee. What's a realistic goal you would set for your first year, and how would you measure whether it had been achieved?
That's a very good question. I'm going to kind of go back to what I had wished was achieved when I was a teacher in the district. Woburn provides a fantastic amount of professional development for their students and for their teachers and their staff. I think that it can do better in asking teachers really what they want. So that's something I would look at because if our teachers are happy and our teachers are well equipped, then our students are going to be happy and our students are going to be well equipped. It doesn't, I know teachers sometimes looked at as the middleman in this process, but they really are the drivers of education. So if teachers are happy in their professional development, if they're happy in their classrooms, if they have the resources they need, then the students will surely have the resources that they need as well. So that would be one thing, just going through, talking to teachers, talking to educators in different buildings, different grades, different subjects, asking what they think they need to better do their job, and making sure that I'm doing my best to get them that what they need. Um, Safe and inclusive schools, of course, that's a physical thing as well as an emotional thing. Schools should be, the buildings should be capable to house classrooms. We shouldn't have, as you've heard, leaky roofs or, inept playgrounds or anything like that. But we also need to make sure that the people in our schools are inclusive. We're taking care of the populations that are underserved or underrepresented in Woburn, and we're equipped to handle any issues that arise. If a student comes to a teacher with a certain particular issue, that teacher needs to know how to respond to that issue. It can't be I don't know, I've never dealt with this type of question before from a student. We need to equip our teachers with information, culturally relevant information that allows them to do their job. It's not politicizing anything. It's not pushing one issue or another. I know there are a whole lot of political and social societal issues that are being pushed to the forefront right now in the world. It's not pushing an agenda on one of those. It's simply providing teachers with information and tools in the toolbox to handle situations that will undoubtedly arise. And if a teacher can answer that question comfortably, it's going to create a comfortable environment for the student and make everything better for everybody. When there isn't that information and when there isn't that tolerance or that inclusivity, that's where issues arise, and that's where the school district can get caught up in something it doesn't want to get caught up in.
Thank you. Um, if you found yourself on the other side of strong community disagreement, how would you work to find a common ground?
The idea would be just to create as many opportunities for feedback as possible, right? Input is great when you can get it from parents, from students, from educators, any other stakeholder. But input early is really what's important. Getting input early in that decision-making process will show us clearly how their voices shape outcomes. No one has an issue with seeing how their voice shapes an outcome. Whether that outcome is exactly what they wanted or not, as long as people understand their voices are being heard and being taken into account before a decision is made, that's going to be important to them. If you're on the wrong side, the other side of a um, of a strong community, all you have to do is simply state your case and just back up why you feel that way. No one is going to be upset with somebody who has a certain opinion as long as they can tell someone why. Pretending not to have that opinion or floating around the issue and not addressing it head on is where you can get yourself in trouble and where you can lose the trust of the citizens of Woburn. If you're honest with them and you can say why you voted for something or why you're supporting something or why you're not, that's going to go a long way. It may be on the opposite side of what most people want or what most people want you to do. But being honest is foremost what you need to do in that situation if you find yourself in a 10 to 1 opposition when it comes to a certain issue or a certain topic.
Thank you. Um, so that kind of brings me back around. I know, the last few years have had a lot of different difficult conversations and votes at the school committee level. Um, is there a decision that the current committee has made that you believe was the right one?
I mean, there are plenty of decisions I feel as if they have made that were the right ones. I mean, the school committee, I don't think it's particularly the issues that they have handled. I think it's the timeline in which they've handled them that I would have perhaps done differently. I mean, everybody points to the school committee going in and asking for the modulars in that city council hearing. Um, I mean, you can criticize them all they want, but they had to do it. I mean, it was this responsible thing to do as members of the school committee. Um, I think that foresight was lacking. I think that was something that could have been seen earlier on if that had been a potential issue that had been examined, but it wasn't. And at that point, you have to see what you can do and you have to move on. I think that it's not necessarily the decisions that have been made or the votes that have been cast. It's been the timeline in which they have or it's been the way that they solicited feedback for those particular votes. I feel as if a lot of times I go to school committee meetings, a parent isn't necessarily upset with what happened, but the timeline or the communication that doled out the decision that was made. I think that is what really needs to change, not necessarily the votes that the committee takes up or the positions that the committee holds, but the transparency that they're able to give to the community when it comes to not only what they feel, but why they feel it and when they made that decision.
Thank you. Um, we've talked about making the difficult choices and um, what that might look like, and what we can change, what we can't change. Could you share an example from your past where you've had to make a tough call and stand by it?
Yeah. So when I was the president of the Boys and Girls State Foundation, which is it's a Boys State and Girls State are a program for municipal youth and government for high school juniors. I went to Boys State when I was a junior at Woburn High as a counselor for 10 or 15 years. And then I was elected the president of the foundation, which is to supplement the American Legion posts in order to create the program, allow the program to become more affordable for students who may not be able to pay the full tuition. I was lucky enough to be elected the president, and we had a large conundrum, which I was unfortunately not reelected because I made this decision, but I did stick by it. We were given $350,000 by a donor, which is a hefty chunk of money when it comes to facilitating the program and supplementing tuitions. Just for our use in tuitions for Boys State, that was a large amount, and it would have subsidized our tuition for a lot of years. However, the donor who made that donation was someone who was caught up in some legal issues that were not necessarily private. And I had made the decision, executive decision, not to accept that funding. Um, the board overrode me and accepted the funding anyways, but I did not renege on that because I feel as if our reputation as a foundation was more valuable than the donation being made. I know it's really tough to use a fiscal example here, especially when that's usually what we talk about in the school committee, but that was just one thing that I don't regret doing. And my convictions are my convictions. They may not be popular. They may not be the most popular when it looks at, when you agree with the majority of the city's citizens of Woburn. But I feel a way for a reason, and that's not going to influence my decision making one way or another as long as it's backed up by information. I'm going to vote based on what's best for the city of Woburn, in my mind, and I'm going to stand by that.
So, you've been giving us all of these different reasons why the voters should be voting for you. Can you tell us, why do you feel the voters should place their trust in you as the new voice on the committee?
Mainly because I'm willing to learn. I mentioned my experience. I mentioned what strengths I think I have and what I bring to the school committee. But what I've always said and what I've always thought about every aspect of my career, every adventure I've had, every job that I've held, I never want to stop learning. I never want to be the best I can be until I'm sure that I've done absolutely everything. Um, Learning is on the job is what it takes in this type of role. You can't come in with all the answers because you haven't done the job. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen to the people of Woburn, and I'm willing to represent them on the school committee. I'm not going to be ingrained in an ideology that has been tried and tested for years and years. Sometimes is successful, sometimes is not. I want to be the voice for folks who are willing to participate in our civic engagement in a way that allows not only the city of Woburn to be stronger, but our school districts to be stronger, and in a way that fosters more community and civic engagement. The school district will be healthy regardless of whether I'm on the school committee. What I want to do is explore options that people may not want to explore, or explore options that aren't well aware, or explore options or explore ideas that I think, as an outsider, might make some sense. Okay, expanding after school programs being one of them, but there are certain things that come with a price, and that's one of them. But I don't want to shy away from having those conversations because I feel that they are important. But I do want to learn. That's what it is. I want to use my opportunities to make myself better day in and day out as a member of the school committee in order to make our school district the best it could possibly be. And I'm willing to do that.
Thank you. So before we wrap up, James, is there anything else you'd like to share with the voters?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I just want to quickly just mention, my philosophy, my takeaway from this, and sort of my passion. Um, since I was 6 years old, minus a couple years in college, I have been in some way, shape, or form connected to the Woburn Public Schools, as a student athlete, as a teacher, as a coach. There's a reason for that. It's not because it was the only job I could find or it's the only place that I had lived. It's because I wanted to give back to a community that I felt so strongly affected by. I had pride in growing up in Woburn. I had an immense love for the community that I grew up in, and I still do. I'm not sure that students in my shoes have that feeling anymore. I want the students who go through Woburn High School to have pride in the fact that they're from Woburn, to love their community, to want to give back. Maybe not necessarily in the same way that I have, but in any sort of way. If we want to have a continued civic engagement, we need to foster a sense of love and a sense of trust and loyalty to our community. And we need that starts with our students. And if I want to provide an opportunity for those students and a school district for those students to be able to grow in that way. Um, I want to respect our educators. I've been a teacher. I've been on one side of it and I've been on the other, positives and negatives. I want to make sure our teachers are respected, are listened to, and are given what they need in order to succeed in their jobs. Certainly want to put every student first. Okay, that's why I'm here. I'm here for the students. I'm giving back to the students in a way that now I can, that I'm no longer employed in the district. I also want to make sure that we're spending every tax dollar we can wisely, right? I don't want to spend money just to spend money, and I also don't want to save money when we can spend it on something that's going to improve the district. But if we're going to spend money and we're going to ask people to do it, we need to have a plan. We need to let them know that we're going to try and spend X amount of money over X amount of time, and this is why. Not why, but WHY. This is why we are going to spend this. That's a lot easier to stomach than a random ask at the last minute because we forgot to plan for Chromebooks or forgot to plan for classroom space. Um, Strong schools mean a strong Woburn, in my opinion. And I'll work every day, whether I'm on the school committee or not, to make that a reality. And that's really all I'm about.
Thank you so much for your time today, James. That is our last interview for this week. We will be back next week with three more school committee interviews. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.